When Ralph Cooper stepped into the airlock of the Ocampan flagship, he gagged as the smell of rotting waste punched him in the nose. The Ocampan fleet desperately needed a competent janitor to get their ships in order before their crumbling hulls gave way at the seams, so they had turned to humanity's legendary cleaning skills as a final resort. But surveying the abominable filth caking every surface, Ralph wondered if even he was up to the monumental task of making this floating disaster safe for life again. Ralph slowly made his way deeper into the ship's reeking bowels. He stepped over piles of discarded junk, half-disassembled machinery parts, and puddles of leaking coolant. Panels hung off the walls exposing sparking wires. Nauseating gases belched from ruptured conduits, and the grime, it was everywhere, a thick, oily sheen coating the floors, the railings, the control terminals. This went beyond mere untidiness. The Ocampan's slovenly ways had transformed their once gleaming vessel into a death trap waiting to implode. When Ralph voiced his mounting unease to his Ocampan liaison Wezen, the dismissive alien scoffed, insisting that a little mess never hurt anyone. But Ralph knew better. He had seen the disastrous aftermath of neglected ships, entire crews suffocated or blasted apart when critical systems failed from lack of basic upkeep. The Ocampans might have gotten used to living in squalor, but Ralph refused to let their blasé attitude endanger more lives on his watch. With grim resolve, Ralph threw himself into the overwhelming job of rehabilitating the flagship. He sorted, he scoured, he scrubbed on his hands and knees until his muscles ached and his fingers bled. Little by little, like a soldier retaking a battlefield inch by bloody inch, he beat back the chaos and imposed human order. As the ship slowly transformed, some Ocampans saw the benefits of Ralph's crusade, but others, led by Wezen, bristled at the disruption to their haphazard routines. The conflict reached a tipping point when Ralph's reorganization efforts caused a near catastrophe in the negligently maintained engine room during a vital mission. Incensed, the Ocampan captain fired Ralph and ejected him from the ship. Now, standing before the Ocampan High Council, all of Ralph's hard work hangs in the balance. The revelations he uncovered about the roots of Ocampan disarray could vindicate him, or seal humanity's reputation as meddling nuisances once and for all. In this trial, Ralph doesn't just fight for his job. He fights for the very future of human Ocampan relations, and the fate of every Ocampan life flying in those barely functional scrap heaps they call a fleet. Ralph stood before the Ocampan High Council, his heart pounding as he presented the damning evidence he had collected. Holographic projections flickered to life, displaying the unsafe conditions, the inefficient systems, the disastrous state of the ship he had fought so hard to rehabilitate. "Esteemed counselors," Ralph said, his voice echoing in the cavernous chamber. "What you see here is not mere untidiness, but a clear and present danger to the lives of every Ocampan crew member. Without immediate change, it's only a matter of time before catastrophe strikes." Wezen surged to his feet, his face twisted with rage. "Lies!" he shouted. "This human seeks to undermine our way of life, to impose his foreign values on our proud culture. We cannot allow it." The council erupted into chaos, voices raised in argument. Ralph stood firm, weathering the storm of accusations. During a recess, he slipped into the hallway and overheard a hushed conversation between Wezen and a high counselor. "Our ancestors ordained this way of life," Wezen insisted. "To change it now would be to betray their memory." Ralph's mind raced. So that was the root of the problem, a deeply ingrained belief that their current habits were divinely mandated. Armed with this new understanding, he returned to the council chamber with a bold proposal. "I believe there is a path forward that honors both efficiency and tradition," Ralph declared. "Allow me to work alongside your engineers and cleaners to develop a new system, one that incorporates the best of both our cultures. Together, we can build a fleet that embraces the future while celebrating the past." The counselors deliberated, their whispers filling the room. Finally, the High Counselor nodded. "Very well, Ralph Cooper. You may return to the ship and implement your plan. but know that we will be watching closely." Energized by this chance, Ralph threw himself into the work. He collaborated with a team of forward-thinking Ocampans, including an engineer who had long struggled with the disorganized chaos of the ship. They pored over schematics and diagrams, debating and brainstorming late into the night. Slowly, a new layout began to take shape, one that balanced human efficiency with Ocampan sensibilities. Color coding and symbols resonated with their cultural traditions, while streamlined organization ensured that vital tools and systems were always close at hand. But as they began to implement the changes, resistance arose. Wesen and his loyal followers sabotaged their efforts at every turn, spreading poisonous rumors that Ralph sought to erase Ocampan identity. Vital components went missing, work was undone, and progress ground to a halt. Undeterred, Ralph and his allies fought back. They worked tirelessly to demonstrate the benefits of the new system, showing how it could improve safety and efficiency without compromising their heritage. They even developed a ritual cleaning ceremony, incorporating Ocampan music and dance to make the process feel like a celebration of their culture. Gradually, hearts and minds began to turn. More and more Ocampans embraced the changes, seeing how the new way honored their past while preparing them for the challenges ahead. The ship buzzed with newfound purpose and energy. But just as victory seemed within reach, a dire emergency erupted. Alarms blared as the ship hurtled towards a dangerous anomaly, its systems pushed to the brink. In the chaos, Wesen and his followers saw their chance to strike a final blow against Ralph's efforts. As the crew scrambled to respond, Ralph knew that everything hung in the balance. The ship, the Ocampan people, his own future, all would be decided in the heat of this crisis. With steely purpose, he turned to face the challenge head-on. Ralph stood on the bridge of the Ocampan flagship, his eyes fixed on the swirling mass of ionized particles that filled the view screen. The ship shuddered as another wave of energy washed over its hull. "Navigation's gone dark," called out the helmsman, his fingers dancing frantically over his console. "We're flying blind." Ralph's mind raced. They were on the eve of a critical diplomatic mission, and now this. He turned to the captain. "We need to implement emergency protocols immediately." The captain nodded grimly. "Do it." Ralph tapped his communicator. "All hands, this is Cooper. Execute Protocol Zeta 9. This is not a drill." He sprinted from the bridge, nearly colliding with his team of Ocampan collaborators in the corridor. "Terax, secure all loose equipment and engineering. Nira, start sealing off non-essential areas. Vox, distribute emergency gear to all decks." As his team scattered to their tasks, Ralph caught sight of Wesen, glowering from a nearby alcove. "Wesen, I need your help. Your people trust you." Wesen sneered. "I won't be party to your human meddling." "This isn't about me," Ralph snapped. "It's about keeping everyone alive." But Wesen had already turned away, leading a group of his followers deeper into the ship. Ralph cursed under his breath and raced to engineering. The ship groaned around him as he ran, lights flickering ominously. He burst into the engine room just as a series of alarms began to wail. "Report!" he shouted over the din. The chief engineer's face was grim. "It's bad, Cooper. Engines are fluctuating, life support's on the fritz, and hull integrity is down to 68% and falling." Ralph's team worked furiously, but the sheer chaos of the ship's layout hampered their efforts at every turn. Crucial tools were missing, backup systems were offline, and half the crew seemed lost in the maze-like corridors. As another violent tremor rocked the ship, Ralph made a decision. He hit the ship-wide comm. "All hands, this is Cooper. We're initiating a full system reboot. Repeat, full system reboot." The bridge erupted in protests, but Ralph stood firm. "It's our only shot. We need to shut down everything non-essential and reroute power to critical systems." To his surprise, Wesen's voice cut through the chatter. I agree with Cooper. We should proceed." Ralph blinked in disbelief, then shook it off. "All right, let's move. We need our best people on this." He and Wesen quickly assembled a crack team, assigning each member a specific task in the reboot sequence. Ralph's pulse pounded as they raced against time, alarms blaring and systems failing all around them. They were so close. Ralph could see the primary control node just ahead, but suddenly a deafening roar filled the air. The bulkhead to their left crumpled inward as the vacuum of space tore at the ship. "Hull breach!" someone screamed. Ralph found himself thrown against a wall, gasping as the air was sucked from his lungs. Through blurring vision, he saw Wezen struggling nearby. "The node," Ralph croaked. "We have to reach it." Wezen met his eyes, and in that moment, something passed between them. Understanding, respect. Together, they clawed their way forward, fighting against the pull of the breach. Ralph's fingers closed around the activation switch just as his vision began to fade. He pulled. For a heart-stopping moment, everything went dark and silent. Then, with a surge of power, systems began to flicker back to life. Ralph sagged against the console, gulping in sweet recycled air. Wezen clapped him on the shoulder, a wry grin on his face. "Not bad," the Ocampan admitted, "for a human." Ralph wiped the sweat from his brow as the Ocampan flagship dropped out of FTL on the outskirts of Krellin space. The ion storm incident had left everyone on edge, but there was no time to recover. This diplomatic mission was too crucial to delay. "Incoming transmission," the comms officer announced. "It's the Krellins." A massive dreadnought filled the view screen, its hull gleaming like polished chrome under the light of a nearby star. Ralph's jaw dropped at the sight. He'd never seen a ship so pristine. "Ocampan vessel," a crisp voice crackled over the comm. "This is Admiral Zorvac of the Krellin Empire. Prepare to receive our delegation." Ralph straightened his uniform and glanced at Wezen. "Ready?" The Ocampan nodded, a hint of nervousness in his eyes. "As will ever be." They boarded the Krellin ship, footsteps echoing in spotless corridors. Every surface sparkled. Zorvac, a tall, angular alien with piercing green eyes, greeted them with a rigid salute. "Welcome aboard the Impeccable," he said, voice dripping with barely concealed disdain. "I trust you'll find our accommodations adequate." As they toured the ship, Ralph marveled at the organization. Each component was meticulously labeled, each system perfectly arranged. It was impressive, but something nagged at him. He leaned close to Wezen. "Notice how far the auxiliary power couplings are from the main reactor? Seems inefficient." Wezen's eyes widened. He cleared his throat. "Admiral, my colleague has an observation about your power systems." Zorvac's face darkened as Wezen relayed Ralph's comments. "You dare criticize our methods?" he hissed. "Very well. Let's settle this. A contest, your organizational system against ours, unless you're afraid to be humiliated." Ralph's pulse quickened. This was their chance. "We accept." The first challenge came swiftly, a simulated engine failure. Alarms blared as both teams raced to locate and replace critical components. "Remember the color coding," Ralph shouted to his team. "Red for power, blue for coolant." The Ocampans moved with surprising grace, their new protocols meshing seamlessly with instinct. Meanwhile, the Krellins argued over proper procedure. When the dust settled, the Ocampans had finished a full minute faster. Zorvac's face twisted with rage. As the challenges intensified, Ralph and Wezen adapted. They incorporated Ocampan rituals into their work, chanting as they realigned gravity plating, dancing as they rerouted power conduits. The fusion of human efficiency and alien culture proved unbeatable. Zorvac grew more unhinged with each Ocampan victory. During the final challenge, a complex series of system reboots, he slipped away unnoticed. Suddenly, Klaxon screamed. This was no simulation. Toxic gas flooded compartments. Force fields failed. "Sabotage!" Wezen yelled. Ralph's mind raced. "We need to contain this. Wezen, take your team and seal off the lower decks. I'll stabilize life support." They split up, barking orders in a mix of human and Ocampan phrases. Ralph's fingers flew across control panels, rerouting power and venting contaminated sections. Weazen's voice crackled over the comm. Ralph, we're cut off. The emergency bulkheads won't budge. Ralph cursed. He needed a way to override the lockdown and reach Weazen's team. His eyes fell on a Krellin technician frantically input commands. You, Ralph pointed. I need access to your central computer core. The Krellin hesitated, then nodded. Together, they sprinted to a nearby terminal. Ralph's fingers danced across the unfamiliar interface, merging Krellin protocols with Ocampan workarounds. With a hiss, the bulkheads lifted. Weazen and his team stumbled out, coughing but alive. As the crisis subsided, Zorvak was found cowering in an escape pod. His treachery exposed, the Admiral was immediately confined to the brig. Ralph and Weazen stood before the Krellin High Council, exhausted but triumphant. They had saved both crews and exposed critical flaws in the Krellin system. Now came the hard part, convincing the Council that their hybrid approach was the future. Ralph took a deep breath and stepped forward. Esteemed Council members, what you witnessed today was more than a contest. It was a revelation.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.